Assalamu alaikum and welcome everyone. National University Sudan, Faculty of Administrative Science, Microeconomics. I'm Dr. Magda Mustafa Sadiq, Associate Professor of Economics. In today's lecture, we will continue our study of the theory of the firm, focusing on one of the most important concepts in production economics, the production function. By the end of this lecture, you should be able to define a production function, explain the short-run production function, distinguish between total product, average product, and marginal product, explain the three stages of production, identify the rational stage where firms should operate. These concepts are essential because they help managers determine the most efficient use of labor and other productive resources. Let us start by defining a production function, or let us begin with the meaning of a production function. A production function describes the technical relationship between the resources used in production, called inputs, and the quantity of goods or services produced, called output. In simple words, it tells us how much output a firm can produce using different quantities of inputs. The production function always represents the maximum possible output, assuming that resources are used efficiently. Technology remains unchanged, and production follows the best available methods. Think of a bakery. The baker combines flour, sugar, labor, ovens, and electricity to produce bread. If the bakery improves its technology by purchasing better ovens, it can produce more bread using the same amount of flour and labor. Therefore, improvements in technology shift the production function upward. The production function can also be expressed mathematically as Q is a function of A, P, C, and D. Here, Q represents output. A, B, C, and D represent different production inputs, such as labor, capital, land, and raw materials. The symbol F, or the function, means that output depends on these inputs. This equation reminds us that firms cannot increase production without changing the quantity or quality of their productive resources. Now, let us move to the short run production function. In economics, the short run is a period during which at least one input is used, which used in the production is kept constant or is fixed. Usually capital, such as machinery, buildings, or land, cannot be changed immediately during 1 year of production. However, labor can usually be increased or reduced more easily in the short run. Therefore, in the short run, capital is kept constant or is fixed, while labor is a variable factor. As firms hire more workers, production usually increases. Initially, production rises rapidly because workers specialize and share tasks more efficiently. However, after some point, each additional worker contributes less than the previous one because too many workers begin sharing the same fixed resources. This introduces the law of diminishing marginal returns, which we will soon discuss. Measuring production. Economists used three important measures of production. The first is total product, abbreviated as TP. Total product is from 3 to 4, for example, the amount added to total product is 3. So you will go to last column and you will find it is 3. Then from 4 to 5, the total product increases by 2 units, and then it is not increasing anymore. So the increase is 0. Then it starts to decline. So at first, both average product of labor and marginal product of labor are increasing. Look here. Let me bring the laser pointer here. Here, both average product of labor are increasing, and here also from 0 to 3. Then it starts to decrease here. To here, it starts to decrease up to the end. Here also it starts to decrease from 4 up to -3. But sometimes average product of labor is larger than marginal product of labor, and sometimes it is the reverse. So at first, both average product of labor and marginal product of labor increases. Later, marginal product of labor starts to decline. Eventually, marginal product of labor reaches the 0 here. Finally, marginal product of labor becomes negative, and these changes divide production into 3 distinct stages. We are going to discuss this later on the graph and see. This is the first stage. We can use a lighter color, maybe green. So this is the first stage. This is the first stage. I don't know why the pen is not working. So this is the first stage here. Okay, up to here. Where total product increases rapidly, here, up to here. Okay, and average product increases. Marginal product is greater than average product. Look here, the orange is larger than the blue. Why does this happen? Because workers become more specialized. They divide tasks efficiently and make better use of the fixed machinery or land. However, firms normally do not stop operating here because the fixed input has not yet been fully utilized. The second stage, diminishing returns, begins when average product starts to decline. Here, average product starts to decline. See? And total product is increasing slowly, and marginal product starts to decrease, but it is less than average product. Okay, average product declines gradually, total product continues increasing. However, it increases at a slower rate. Marginal product remains positive, but decreases continuously. This is called the stage of diminishing returns. Notice that workers still increase production. However, each additional worker contributes less than the previous one, and this is the most important stage for firms. Economists call it the rational stage of production because Both labor and capital are being used efficiently. Stage 3, when total product starts to decline, also average product of labor declining, and marginal product declines until it reaches zero and negative, and it is smaller than average product. So in this stage, total product starts to decline, average product continues falling, marginal product becomes negative. Why? Because there is simply too many workers sharing the same fixed resources. Workers begin interfering with one another. Productivity falls. Even if labor were free, no rational producer would continue operating in this stage, because reducing labor would actually increase production. So these are, or this is the explanation for these slides. For the matching exercise 1, I'm going to do the first one, and the students has to continue doing the remaining ones. Let me first review what we have learned. Match each production concept with its correct definition. So this activity reinforces the meanings of production function, total product, average product, margin product, fixed input, and variable input. So you can solve it after you study this lecture carefully. You have also another matching